Good morning, boys and girls. Today we're going to look at factoring the sum and difference of cubes. So we've talked about factoring the sum and difference of squares, but let's look at the sum and difference of cubes. The first question is, what is a perfect cube? So to be able to identify perfect cubes, we just want to go through this. So a perfect cube would be 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1. So 1 is a perfect cube. A perfect cube would be 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So 8 is a perfect cube. And then we have 3 times 3 times 3, 27, 64, 125, 216. And then I don't remember 7 cubes, so I'm going to have to use my handy dandy calculator. And I get 343. I think 8 cubed is 512. Yep, it's 512. I have no idea what 9 cubed is, and it is 729. And then 10 cubed is 1,000. So what you want to be able to do is to recognize when you see a perfect cube. You want to be able to look at that and say, oh, it's a perfect cube. And of course, you'll be able to use your notes on this, so you can always refer back to these notes. I would just suggest that you take these notes as we go, and you can always look back and find your perfect cubes. Okay? So there are 2 formulas for finding the perfect cube. The first one is for the sum of 2 cubes. So if it's the sum of 2 cubes, we're going to look for an addition sign. For the difference of 2 cubes, what do you think we're looking for there? A subtraction sign. You are so smart. So this is the formula. So if I have a sum of 2 cubes, I'm going to use the formula a plus b, and we're going to define what those are in a second, times a squared plus ab, and that is not correct. And I'll tell you how I know it's not correct. Minus ab plus b squared. And then the difference of 2 cubes is very similar to this formula, but notice here it's a plus b, here it's going to be a minus b. Here it was a minus ab, it's going to be a plus ab. And that last one is always positive. So we have an acronym to help us remember the sign, and that the signs. So that acronym is SOAP, and that means same, opposite, always positive. Okay? So this sign is going to be the same as that sign. It's going to be the opposite of that sign, and then this last sign is always positive. So we call that SOAP. So let's see if that pattern worked here. It's subtraction, so same, opposite, always positive. And that's how we know where to put the plus and the subtraction sign. So boys and girls, you need to memorize these formulas. You need to know these formulas, memorize them, and be able to use them. So let's do a couple of examples. So here are my steps for solving, for factoring a sum and difference. The first thing we always want to do when we factor, the first question we always ask is there a GCF? So the first thing you want to do is factor out of a GCF if it's there. Then we need to decide, is it a sum or if it's a difference? And depending on which one it is, that's the formula we're going to use. And then we're going to find the values of A and B. And then we're going to use the appropriate formula to factor. You ready? So let's look at this first problem. Is it a sum or is it a difference? You are correct. It's the sum. So because it's the sum, we're going to use this formula. This formula, okay? So using that formula, we get A plus B. Then remember, it's the same, opposite, always positive. Okay, so that's the formula we're going to use because it is a sum. Then the next thing to decide is what is A and what is B. What value of A am I cubing to get x cubed? So x cubed is x times x times x. So I say that A is x. What am I cubing to get 64? Well, if we go back to our handy dandy table here, we can see that 64 is 4 cubed. So we're going to use 4 cubed here. So B is 4. Okay? And now we just plug and chug into our formula. So it's a plus b, so that's x plus 4. A squared, x squared, minus, I am multiplying these two together. I multiply those two together, so 4x plus, then I have to square the 4. And that's where most students make their mistake, is forgetting to square that 4. Okay? Let's do the next one. So, is this a sum or is it a difference? You are correct. It's a difference. So because it's a difference, I'm going to use the formula a minus b. And remember, all of these pretty much stay the same. It's just the sign that changes. So a squared, so it's the same opposite. So that's going to be plus ab, always positive, plus b squared. Okay? So now, I need to decide. Well, first of all, there was no CCF. I didn't say that. There was no GCF. I decided it was a difference of 2 cubes. And now I have to find A. Well, A is very similar to the one we just did. So what is A? You are correct. And then what is B? Go back and look at your notes and tell me what, and figure out what B is. So we're going to look back at our notes that we did here. And so B is, you are correct, 5. And so now we just plug and chug again. So this is x minus 5 plus x squared plus, we multiply those two together, 5x, and then b squared, 5 times 5 is 25. Okay, we're cooking with grease now. So let's do one that's slightly a bit more difficult. And to do that, when it's slightly a bit more difficult, we just notice that there's a coefficient here. But we're going to do it the exact same way. First question, is there a GCF? No, there's no GCF. There's no number that goes into both 8 and 27. So there's no GCF. And then I need to figure out sum or difference. You are correct. It is a difference. And so I'm going to use the formula from above, a minus b, a squared plus ab plus b squared. And so remember, it's same, opposite, always positive. So what is a now? Well, if we look, 8 is a perfect square. Once again, if we go back up to our table, we see that 8 is 2 cubed. So because there's also an x cubed here, a is going to be 2x. And b, once again, if we go back up, what can we cube to get 27? And we see that that answer is 3. So 3 cubed is 27. I hope you guys have written these down because it's going to make your life a whole lot easier to have those written down. I'm sorry. I shouldn't write and talk at the same time. Okay? So now, once again, we just plug it into our formula. So this is going to be 2x minus 3. And then 2x squared. When we do 2x squared, you have to remember to square both the 2 and the x. So that is 4x squared, because we have to square that 2. Plus, we're multiplying these two together. So 2 times 3 is 6. And then b squared, 3 times 3 is 9. Now this one just looks all kind of crazy, because I got all kind of big numbers here. So, but we just take it step by step. Okay. So first of all, is it a sum or is it a difference? You are correct. It's a sum. So now we need to figure out what is A and what is B. So again, looking back at your table, you should see that A, what can we cube to get 125? 5. So that's going to be 5x. And what can we cube to get 216? 6. You are correct. So we're cubing 6. So this is 6y. Because of the y here, because of this y cubed, that becomes 6y. Okay, so now we're going to use our formula for addition. So I normally don't write those formulas down each time, but you can. So it's going to be 5x a plus b, 5x plus 6y times a squared. So a squared would be 25x squared. My sign is opposite, so subtraction. Then I multiply a times b, 30xy. and then always positive at the end, and that's 36y squared. Remember to square our numbers here. Remember that's 5 squared and that's 6 squared. Okay? Last one that I'm going to do with you. What's the first question we always ask ourselves when we factor? That is correct. Is there a GCF? And this time we do have a GCF. What is it? You're correct. It's 2. So the first thing I want to do is I want to factor out that 2. So that's going to, when I factor out a 2 here, I get x cubed. 54 divided by 2 is 27. Okay? Now x cubed minus 27y is a difference of 2 cubes because x cubed is a perfect cube and 27 is y cubed is 3y. So my a is still x and my b is 3y. What do I do with this 2 on the outside that's just hanging out there? Well, when I factor it, it still hangs out there. It's just going to hang out there on its own. So I'm just going to put it right there, and now I'm going to factor. So I'm going to use the difference of 2 cubes. So that'll be x minus 3y. Then a squared, so that would be x squared. The opposite, so that'll be plus x plus y, so ab is 3y x. So the middle term would be 3yx or 3xy. And then b squared would be 9y squared. And I just put that in. Okay? So just remember to factor out the GCF first. So what I want you to do right now, what I would like for you to do right now is to do the 5 problems on the right. So pause the video, just pause the video for a second and do those 5 problems and come back and see if you have the correct answer. Okay? Pause the video. All right, welcome back. So I'm just going to do these quickly. Hopefully I get them correct. You can check me as I go. If I get something wrong, just send me a message. Okay? Because let me just say A was X and B was 2. Here A is X and B is 6. So we get X minus 6. I did that wrong and nobody said anything. Were you screaming at the television? That should have been a minus at the top. So sorry, I did that wrong. So this is x minus 6, and this is going to be x squared plus 6x plus 36. Okay? This A is 4x, and B is 1. So this is going to be 4x plus 1 times 16x squared minus, I'm not going to make that mistake again, 4x plus 1, because 1 squared is just 1. Okay, A is 2x and B is y. So this would be, and it's a difference, so 2x minus y, and then 4x squared, and this should be a positive 2xy plus y squared. And the last one, 24 is not a perfect cube. We look at our numbers, nor is 375. So that should give me a clue that I need to factor something out. So what is the greatest common factor between 24 and 375? I want to say it's 3. And so that's going to give me 8x cubed plus 375, 125. And now I have the sum of 2 cubes. So again, that 3 just hangs out. My A is 2x. My B is 5. So I have 2x plus 5. Then I have 4x squared minus 10x plus 25. There we go. And I hope I didn't make any mistakes in there. So what you need to do now is you need to do your IXLs and finish in your exit ticket. So I will talk with you guys tomorrow. Bye.